Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we're continuing on with our assassin reviews. This time we're looking at the Callidus assassin, which of course isn't going to be in the Space Marine Codex. You'll find this in the Psychic Awakening War of the Spider supplement. So let's get straight into the actual datasheet for this assassin. It's coming in at 5 power or 100 points, just like all the other assassin models. It's got a movement of 7 inches, weapon skill 2+, ballistic skill 2+, strength 4, toughness 4, wounds 5, attacks 5, leadership 9 and a 6+ save. Don't worry too much about that 6+ save, you'll see in the ability section as to why. As for the actual war gear, the Callidus assassin is equipped with a neural shredder, a phase sword and poison blades. So let's check out all 3 of those pieces of war gear, starting with the neural shredder, which is a ranged attack at 9-inch range, assault 1. Now there's no strength, AP or damage due to when you're resolving the actual attack for the weapon. If a hit is scored, you don't need to make a wound roll. Instead you roll 3d6, and if the result is equal to or greater than the target unit's leadership, they're going to suffer d3 mortal wounds. So on average you will score 10 when you roll in 3d6, so you should be beating virtually everyone's leadership. But it's quite nice because they're mortal wounds as opposed to standard wounds, so they're very likely not able to block these like with an in-run save. Next you've got a phase sword, which is a melee weapon. It's strength user, making it strength 4, -3 AP and the damage is 2, and no invulnerable saves can be made against these attacks. Now with 5 attacks base, and you're hitting on 2s as well, you should likely be getting your 4 hits and then maybe causing 2 wounds on average there. And a 3+ armor save is going to go down to a 6+ armor save regardless of the invuln or not, so you're likely going to be scoring some wounds there. Then finally they've got the poison blade. Now it's only strength 2, -1 AP, 1 damage. However, you make 1 additional attack with this weapon, so this is in addition to the actual phase sword. And you will always wound on the 3+ unless the target is a vehicle model, but only -1 AP, 1 damage there. Then we get on to the actual abilities for the assassin, starting with the agents of the Imperium. So you can include one single agent of the Imperium unit, and in each Imperium detachment, excluding the fallen detachments, whether it's a patrol, battalion or brigade detachment, they won't be taking up a slot within your battlefield roles. Furthermore, they're not going to actually affect any of your detachment abilities, whether it's your chapter tactics, your combat doctrines for example. It's not going to affect any of that. Secondly, they've got the execution force. So if your warlord has the Imperium keyword, which they very likely will, then you can include this unit as part of a vanguard detachment, even if the detachment doesn't contain any HQ models. Then it's got independent operative, so it can never be given a warlord trait. However, during deployment, you can set the model up in concealment instead of placing it on the battlefield. Then at the end of any of the movement phases, the model can reveal its position, set it up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away. So it's effectively deep strike. Now this ability will change due to another ability which we'll go over in a second. But before we go into that ability, we've got lightning reflexes as well, which basically gives the model a 4+ invulnerable save. So that ability we were talking about is called the polymorphine. So during deployment you can set the model up in disguise instead of setting it up on the battlefield, and in any of your movement phases the model can revert to its true form. So you set it up anywhere on the battlefield more than d6 + 3 inches away from enemy models. For example, if you roll a 4, then it can be set up anywhere more than 7 inches away from enemy models. So even if you roll the maximum, which is a 6, that will put it to a 6 + 3 inches, which is basically 9 inches, which is the standard deep strike range. But this has the actual potential of only being 4 inches away when you come in from reserves. Then it'll obviously be very easy to make a charge move in that same turn. Next one is hit and run, so the model can shoot and charge in the turn in which it fell back. So it's going to be really good for that neural shredder, as well as being able to fight first due to you making that charge move again. Then finally the Reign of Confusion ability. So in the first battle round you roll 1d6 for each time your opponent spends any command points to use a stratagem on. And on a 4+ your opponent must spend 1 additional CP to use that stratagem, or else it will have no effect. And on top of that, any CP spent so far will be lost. So if they decide not to spend the additional CP, they will lose the original CP that they used to spend it on in the first place. However, this cannot affect stratagems that are used before the battle. It's only battle round 1 there. Now there is a way of manipulating that in the stratagem section, which we'll go over in a bit, but let's just finish off the actual data sheet with the keywords. So it's got the Imperium keyword, it's an infantry, and it's a character model, which means it's going to benefit from the Lookout Sir ability. So whether it's a vehicle or a monster or a unit of 3 models, it means that your assassin is not going to be able to be targeted unless they're both visible and the closest enemy model. So on to those stratagems then. There's 4 here in total, just like with the Vindicare assassin. 2 of them are generic for all of the assassins, and then 2 of them are specific assassins. So let's get on with the first one, which is Shadow Assignment. So effectively pre-game, after you've seen your opponent's list, you've seen the mission, and you're even deployed, you can use this stratagem for 2 command points, and you can effectively remove this assassin from the battle and exchange the assassin for one of the other assassins. There's 4 in total, so there's 3 other ones that you could select from. Then not only that, this assassin will not be considered destroyed, and it's not going to cost you any reinforcement points to do this, even in match play. So maybe you see your opponent's list and there's loads of character models within their list, and you think maybe the Vindicator Assassin with that sniper that avoids the Lookout Sir rule may be a better option for you, so you can just simply spend 2 command points and switch them out. Next you've got Priority Threat Neutralized. It's a free stratagem. When you kill a character with this model, you gain a command point, and if it was a warlord, you're going to gain 2 command points. Very simple there. Then onto the actual specialized stratagems that are going to go with the Callidus Assassin. The first one is Acrobatic. In the movement phase, you select your assassin from the army. That model can advance and charge this turn. Then in addition, until the start of the next battle round, you subtract 1 from the hit rolls for attacks made against this assassin. So with a 7-inch movement, as well as the actual advance move, then being able to charge as well, you do have the potential of a first turn charge, but of course you're probably likely going to be deep striking in anyway, to be fair. So this is more for a late game stratagem when you want to go for a second unit after you finish killing off the first one. Then the final one is for 2 command points is Supreme Deception. Use the stratagem at the start of any battle round after the first one. You select your Callidus Assassin, even if they're not on the battlefield, then that model's Reign of Confusion ability is considered to be in effect, and you can only use the stratagem once per battle. So I'll quickly put back on the screen what the Reign of Confusion was, just to remind us. If you remember the first battle round, every time your opponent uses a command point to spend on a stratagem on a 4+, they need to spend an additional CP to do so, and that's only for the first battle round, whereas the stratagem allows you to do it in any of the other battle rounds, not just the first one. So if you can see that your opponent's about to use some stratagems, you pull this one off, especially when they're very low on CP and you know they're not going to be able to spend any more on that stratagem. So as there's no real synergy with the actual codexes, let's get straight onto the summary. Again, there's quite a few here for the good section in particular. They can go into any Imperium faction and they're not going to mess up any of your faction bonuses. Again, whether it's chapter tactics, for example. Normally you need the same keyword as your Battleforge, but in this case you don't. They no longer cost command points to field them, which is quite a nice little touch there. And then of course they've got the very good stratagem options, one in particular being able to gain command points for killing characters. They've got a 4+ invulnerable save, which is really helpful because their actual standard armor save is pretty bad with a 6+. So they're definitely going to be needing that 4+ invulnerable save. Then they've got the polymorphine ability for an easier charge, coming in D6 plus 3 inches as opposed to 9 inches. In from deep strike means you're likely going to be getting a pretty simple charge there. And then in terms of the melee weapon, enemy units cannot be taking invulnerable saves against the assassin's attacks, which is pretty cool. And the neural shredder, you can be using it to advance and still fire, as well as falling back, firing and then recharging as well. And then finally, to top it all off, it's going to have a weapon skill value of a 2+, so barely missing there. As for the bad, you can only field 1 assassin, so no spamming anymore like you used to be able to. They're only really usable at close range, 12-inch range for the neural shredder, and of course with the melee attacks, but nothing else more than 12 inches away is going to do anything. And it's only a damage 2 weapon in melee, so against 3 wound models such as Terminator for example, could be a real weakness. And talking of some more powerful melee units, it's not likely going to be lasting against those units with only 5 wounds and a 4+ invulnerable save, and that's kind of the whole point of this unit because you're going to be targeting powerful units that do have an invuln save, so they're likely going to be very good in melee. So before we get onto the actual rating for this review, let's get our shout out of the day done. Going to Sean Zari. I'm not sure if I butchered that name or not, apologies if I have. They were mentioned in a comment for the Tactical Squad review did recently, talking about how you can give them the Iron Hands chapter, which will make them a really good objective holder with a 6+ feel no pain save. So let's get on with the rating today for the Callidus Assassin. I'm going to go with a Planet 40k rating of 3 stars. I don't think it's as good as the Vindicator Assassin if I'm honest, because at least that one could be firing at characters from range, so not likely to be getting hit back, whereas the Callidus Assassin will be getting struck back by some very powerful melee units. So that's what I think. Let me know what you think below, and how do you use the Callidus Assassin. Also remember to like and subscribe on your way out. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.